It wasn't until I had children of my own that I understood the story of the prodigal son. We are the ambassadors of Christianity. Some events brought me closer to God and others further away. But trust and believe everything happens for a reason when you're searching for your identity in Christ. No such luck. So this is the story that I would eventually present to a board of producers at Full Sail University a few years after the Appalachian Trail hike took place. And because I was asked what my most memorable experience was hiking the Appalachian Trail, this came to mind. So, this story begins in New Jersey, of all places, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is the densest populated state for bears. This is probably something to do with the human population density being so high, combined with black bears doing more and more foraging in urban areas. Since I'm on the topic of bears, maybe it's a good time to interject that, some fun facts. I've already talked about the bears in Virginia being highly intelligent creatures, so they've got that going for them. And they are so stealthy that despite their immense size, it's very difficult to hear them coming. They have longer front legs than their rear, so they can run uphill faster than down. This is probably why they can climb trees so well. And of course, they are fiercely protective of their young. Also, it might be wise to explain the difference between a black bear and a brown bear. Now, I was taught that when you find yourself in front of certain predators, you should stand your ground and make yourself appear as big as you can so that they understand you're down for a fight. If the attack continues, the first thing you should do is curl up in a ball, interlock your fingers, and put your fingers at the back of your neck so that your palms protect your jugular veins and that you try and touch your elbows in front of you, as the predator will naturally try to go for the neck first. This strategy works with animals like brown bear and mountain lions, but don't assume in this case it will work with the black bear. You see, brown bears are dominance-based predators and will maul you until they feel they have established dominance. Brown bears do not exist on the east coast of the United States, but only out west. Black bear, on the other hand, make their home east of the Mississippi and west of the Mississippi, but primarily east of the Mississippi, and are not dominance-based predators, but are instead territorial predators. This means that the attack will continue until one of you die, or escape the territory in which the bear holds sway. Back to the story at hand. So as you might have guessed, that 1,000-mile hike for CF left me wanting, and those who make it halfway have what it takes to hike the whole thing. And I guess I just knew at this point in my life that I was made for this sort of thing, that I was going to push on to the finish line, despite my budget being severely limited. PA has two major features of note. The first, that it was an ancient glacial deposit, meaning that it's littered with rocks, making PA the toughest on feet. This also means that it has the most rattlesnakes, both eastern diamondback and timber rattlers. However, I digress. Sorry, I'm just trying to give you the most true tale to the experience. But anyways, this story takes place in New Jersey, just shy of Unionville, New York. Like down south, the trail weaves in and out of two states up north as well. This particular day, I had run completely out of food. But at this point, according to the handbook, I was within 5 miles of Unionville. I felt particularly weak and almost cried tears of joy when a road crossing came and I saw a garage. I assumed they had at least candy bars for sale or something. Unfortunately, it was a Sunday and there was no one to be seen and the garage was locked up. Just as I was starting to leave for the mountain, I managed to see a soda machine out of the corner of my eye. I had 5 or 6 ones in my pack. And one by one, I traded them in for cans of Mountain Dew, as it were. This would be impractical in most situations, but I needed energy, so I was glad to buy them. I could see a massive storm system was on the horizon, and I knew there was a shelter at the top of the mountain. So I started up the trail towards the shelter as the claps of thunder grew closer and closer. At some point, I must have realized that the contents of my backpack were metal, as well as my trekking poles. Trekking poles are similar to ski poles, except the purpose they serve are to alleviate some of the pressure from your knees. Fun fact, a thru hiker, it does the same amount of damage to their knees in 6 months as what the average person does in 6 years. Some of us are made of fiberglass. Some are made of fiberglass, but mine were the cheap stainless steel versions from Walmart, adorned with a 4-leaf clover near one of the grips that I got from a girl who worked at the G-Man with me. The rain began to fall down in sheets, and soon the trail under my feet was like an ankle-high current pushing the opposite direction that I was trying to go. I started to become afraid as the lightning was right on top of me. I would usually count seconds between the flashes and booms to see how far away I was from the epicenter of the storm. It was not like watching the storms from the back porch. It's absolutely terrifying. And I don't care what any other thru hiker will tell you. Most hikers will start talking to God in these moments, almost as if they lay in their deathbed and begin to reckon their existence and the beyond. I can remember briefly looking skyward. To my surprise, an adolescent bear was 40 feet up in the tree, 40 feet up in a pine tree, clinging tight as the unburdened winds of the mountaintop ripped through the woods. For a split second, I thought to myself, why in the world would a bear be up in a tree and then bam, lightning struck about 10 feet from me. But I've never felt anything like it before or since. A direct hit would have surely killed me outright. But I kid you not, the static charge contracted my legs so fast that my knees touched my chest before my body hit the ground. My knees touched my chest before my body hit the ground. I thought I was dead, likened to a deer that was fatally shot, but kept kicking out until the nerve system stopped finally. My pack was still strapped to me, and I ran almost 30 feet before hitting the ground a second time. It was at this point that I smelled singed hair, and upon trying to stand, I realized that everything was spinning like I had just got off the tilt-a-whirl. Luckily, my adrenaline was off the charts, and the trail was a straight line leading directly to the shelter. I'm not sure how long it took for me to get to the shelter, but the entire time I was puking. My brain was actually swelling inside of my skull cavity, but I didn't know any of that yet. I only knew that somehow I managed to survive a lightning strike, and that I was severely hurt. I stumbled into the empty shelter with my pack and all. This was not ideal, however, because I knew for a fact that at least one adolescent black bear couldn't be far behind. And it dawned on me that I was putting off the smell of burnt flesh and adrenaline. New Jersey actually have what's called bear boxes at shelters because bears are so prevalent in the area, not to mention so clever. And it doesn't take much for them to pluck the food sacks half adorned over a tree limb. Instead, all who brave the woods in these parts are strictly to put their food in the stainless steel box with a lock hasp on it to keep the bears from stealing it. I can still remember tearing a slit in my handkerchief to rest over my mouth so that the mosquitoes didn't eat me alive, and every so often I'd pull the slit to one eye to see if I had company. It was dusk at this point, which was when hikers usually roll in for the night, and I prayed someone would come save me. Instead, my eyes focused in on the bear box. I saw a massive black bear standing on the bear box no more than 50 feet in front of me. The image that I still see so clearly in my mind is like a lion at a circus, except as the 400-pound killing machine stood atop the box, it couldn't understand that its own weight was the only thing keeping it from gaining entry to whatever was inside. I remember the sound of its claws scraping against the side as I began to realize my food bag was doubling as my pillow, and I had piles of puke beside me. The bear hopped down off the box and began heading ominously in my direction. I knew enough that if the bear didn't manage to see that I was in there by the time he climbed up into the shelter, I would be done. I instantly thought about my mom and dad lowering my casket down into the ground beside my sister, and I started to cry. I couldn't believe that this was happening to me, that my foolishness had finally caught up to me and I was about to die. In a final attempt to live, I stood up and wrapped my arms around a beam, holding up the roof of the shelter, and screamed, "My mom doesn't want me to die today, Bear." You leave me be. All the muscles in the bear tightened up at once, similar to when I was struck by lightning as he tried to figure out where the noise came from. Again, I screamed, "Not now, not ever." The black bear locked in on me and, quite unafraid of me, slowly lumbered away into the shadows of the forest. I fell down sobbing. I can't explain in words past this point what I felt, as life is so unbelievable at times to describe. I was by myself that night, just me and an extremely hungry 400-pound black bear. I propped my back against the outside of the shelter, as bears have bad eyesight, and I wouldn't want to go inside that thing again and be trapped. And I've never been so happy to see another through hiker as I did when Horizon and Marshmallow wandered up the next morning to the shelter. Both hikers knew something was horribly wrong, but I just begged them to help me down to Unionville, which they did immediately. That's the type of people through hikers are. We're all a little crazy to set the type of goals we do, but similarly, we were a nomadic family, and to have each other's back against the odds. They got me to safety, which happened to be a firefighter who retired after witnessing 9/11 firsthand. I think his name was Brian. Uh, and he took us in for 2 whole weeks while I healed. I remember shaving my head, here's a picture, to get rid of the smell. And although it isn't something I'm trying to promote to others, the two of us spent most of the time in an above ground pool eating watermelon, drinking beer. That's another thing about people along the AT. They're called trail angels for a reason. The trail brings out a certain level of humanity in people, and some of the kindest things I have ever been a part of or witnessed were from the goodness of strangers' hearts. Oh, the kicker to the story, and what sold the idea for the pilot episode for a TV show, somewhere out there, probably in a box or a Boy Scout's garage, is the world's only four-leaf clover that's been struck by lightning. What's the lesson? God's good all the time.